For anyone who has watched Shadow and Bone on Netflix, you have joined us in the Grishaverse. The epic fantasy series is taking the streaming service by storm right now, and promises to be up there with some of the biggest shows in the game. But how exactly did they bring Leigh Bardugo's words to life? In this video, we will take a look behind the scenes of Shadow and Bone, and how they created the rich world of Ravka, shot those epic action scenes, and the time the cast lost it over some llamas. Spoiler warning, there will be some Shadow and Bone spoilers in this video. Despite there being some high-risk, daring action scenes, the Shadow and Bone crew were apparently unafraid to perform the stunts themselves. Of course, while professional stunt workers were brought in for the more dangerous moments, a majority of the stunts were done by the actors themselves, which was great for production, as it meant that they didn't have to cut away as often while shooting. But of course, seeing as doing your own stunt work comes with its own level of risk, some of the actors didn't make it out injury-free, with actor Amita Suman, who plays Inej Gaffa, apparently picking up her own Inej scar. The incident occurred in a fight scene with the Inferni in episode 6, where she cut her finger deeply on a woman's metal belt. Personally, if I were an actor, I would want to leave production with one of the props, but apparently Amita was pretty proud of picking up her own Inej scar. She was also apparently very proud that a majority of her scenes are actually her doing the stunt work, despite having a talented stunt double, and has said that she would like to do even more stunts, especially on horseback in season 2, no matter the physical toll on her body. That is, of course, if a second season does go ahead, which, let's face it, it probably will. But Amita isn't the only person to come away with something life-changing from Shadow and Bone. Kit Young, who plays Jesper, apparently researched cowboys and typical gunslingers to prepare for the role. In fact, Kit got so good at using a gun that the production learned that shots they had originally planned to use CGI and visual effects for could actually be performed by Kit himself. His co-star, Freddie Carter, who plays Kaz, also learned a new skill by practicing quick sleight of hand tricks performed by his character. In terms of location for the mythical Ravka, shooting was actually performed in Hungary, in both the nation's capital Budapest and the beautiful countryside which the production put to good use, using some fantastic dramatic shots of the landscape. This means that overall, there's a lot less green screen than you might assume, and what you're really looking at is the Hungarian countryside. The production found that Hungary acted as the perfect place to shoot, as the blend of Eastern and Western architecture in Budapest and the mixed terrain in the country acted perfectly for the nation of Ravka. Although most of the shooting was done in Hungary, additional footage was reportedly shot on the west coast of Canada, in Vancouver. Seeing as both Shadow and Bone and Game of Thrones are highly popular fantasy series based on a book, there is already a connection between the two. But there is also an element of both that ties the two shows together. In fact, that element is a professional conlanger, which in simpler terms means someone who creates artificial languages. David J. Peterson, as well as creating languages for Marvel projects Thor: The Dark World and Doctor Strange, Peterson has also worked on Game of Thrones, creating both the Dothraki and Valyrian languages. As you probably guessed, Peterson also created the languages for Shadow and Bone, and his work was so good that it is a language you are able to learn and understand. The production team made sure to make the most of Peterson's efforts, incorporating the language in multiple ways on set, such as on bottle labels and playing cards. It's no secret that Leigh Bardugo's books are immensely popular and well-loved, and it turns out the cast were also fans of her work. In fact, before shooting, everyone had apparently at least read one of the books in the series, and they would constantly be reading and referencing Bardugo's books on set and keeping them close by. Kit Young said that the books were such a good resource that they would actually have to slow down and take a moment to make sure that the audience and those unfamiliar with Bardugo's work understood what was going on, as the cast were so well versed in the world and the mythos that it made complete sense to them, but not necessarily to a casual viewer. But the love between the Shadow and Bone cast and Leigh Bardugo is seemingly mutual, and Bardugo was seen getting emotional with the cast when visiting the set, finding it eerie that her vision had come to life. Of course, one of the most popular elements of Shadow and Bone is the fan favorite, dark and mysterious character, General Kirigan, played by the great Ben Barnes, but the flashback story of Kirigan that takes place in the cold open of episode 7 was originally pretty different. The original cold open was supposed to be taken from the short story, Demon in the Wood, also written by Bardugo. and was to center on a 10-year-old Darkling alongside his young mother. But they eventually decided to scrap this, as they couldn't find the right child actor, and it would have also involved a child going into freezing cold water. And also, there was one big issue about the scene. There was no Ben Barnes. So showrunner Eric Heiserer came up with this alternate scene for the Fold's origins. Bardugo has stated that this differs from the creation she had in her head, and to her it is non-canon, but she was apparently pleased how it ended up. Speaking of Ben Barnes though, while now it is hard to imagine the show without him, he apparently turned the role down at the first time of asking. When Barnes was sent the script for the first episode, his character didn't appear much, so Barnes was against the idea of uprooting his life and working in Eastern Europe for months on a project he didn't feel a big part of, or one that he was unsure would run for multiple seasons. But the production team really wanted Barnes for the part, so they asked him to reconsider and sent him a few more scripts to change his mind. And when he had a chance to see more episodes and some tasty dialogue, Barnes became interested in the role and read the first book before meeting up with Heiserer, quickly becoming invested in the world. Although working on Shadow and Bone did prevent him from taking a role on another high-profile show. When his former colleague, Kari Skoglund, offered him a role on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he had to turn down a Marvel reunion due to a scheduling conflict with Shadow and Bone. One of the things that has helped the Shadow and Bone series to become so popular is the chemistry between the cast members. And this is down in part to the fact that they all get along like a house on fire. There are a number of videos posted on the cast's social media showing them laughing, goofing around, and having fun on set. Whether it be freaking out over a bunch of llamas, messing around with a lightsaber, or performing some hilarious dancing fails. As they were all so close and enjoyed working with each other, there was apparently a great atmosphere on set and a great bond between the different actors. Amita Suman said there was a connection between everyone in the cast, and she even felt like she met her co-star Kit Young before when they first met in their chemistry test, and said that all in all, it made for a great experience. As I said earlier, while leaving the show with a scar might be pretty cool for Amita, I'd rather leave with some of the props. And luckily for some of the stars, they got a chance to do just that. Kit has said that he has managed to keep 4 of the guns used in the show, although he was unable to take any of the costume pieces despite his constant asking. In future, he may want to adopt Freddie Carter's approach, who admitted that he took Kaz's cane and gloves and had them in his suitcase and ready to go before shooting had ended. I mean, it is pretty in character, I guess. While Season 1 mostly stayed true to the books, there were some things they left out, such as prominent book characters Nikolai Lantsov and Wyland Van Eck, although they will likely make an appearance at some point down the line.